In the dust of forgotten highways, in the shadows of roadside diners, we're spinning yarn from strange America, where every tale's got a twist, and not all ghosts wear chains. Hello, friend. Let's roll on down to the low country, where the moss hangs like old secrets, and the rivers know stories that never made the papers. South Carolina don't shout its legends, lets them simmer, in this story called The Lantern Bride of Edisto Swamp. Way out near the headwaters of the Edisto, where the cypress trees poke up like buried knuckles, and frogs hush when they ought to sing, there's talk of a woman in white who walks the waterline with a lantern in hand. They call her the Lantern Bride. Now the story goes that back in the 1890s, a woman named Celia Maru was set to marry the son of a wealthy planter. Not for love, no. This is about land, lineage, and the kind of inheritance you can measure in acres. But the bride had a secret. A boatman named Elijah, who ferried goods and whispered poetry under moonlight. On the eve of her wedding, Celia vanished. The church bells rang, the guests waited, but she never came. They searched for days through tidewater and timber, but all they found was one satin shoe at the edge of the swamp, and a lantern hanging from a tree limb, still lit. Some say she ran, others claim she was taken by her fiancé, his pride wounded beyond repair. But most folks down there look you in the eye and tell you this: she's never left. They say when the fog crawls in and the owls go quiet, you can see a soft light moving through the swamp. Too steady for fireflies, too slow for boats. And if you hear a woman humming a tune that don't have words, just bow your head, say a prayer, and mosey on slowly. Because Celia still walks the backwaters, searching for a boatman who never got to say goodbye. And if you're a man with guilt in his heart, you might not be coming back neither. South Carolina, well, she's beautiful, tangled in rumor and shadow, and of course, in the strange. Here's another tale from Eastern Appalachia, partner. I'll tell you what, Virginia's got more than battlefields and blue hills. It's got hollers that whisper and stones that remember. Let me take you just outside of Staunton, where history runs thick as blood, and sometimes it clots where it shouldn't. Tonight's second story is called The Hollow Bell of Greeley Asylum. Up a forgotten stretch of Route 252, tucked behind a crumbled stone wall and a gate no one admits to building, sits the shell of Greeley Asylum. Built in 1871, it was meant to house the souls who saw too much of the war, or so the ledgers claimed. But folks say Greeley didn't house the broken, it multiplied them. The asylum had no electricity, but it had one bell, cast iron, riveted with patient names on the side, so that every toll would shake their memory back into place. That bell rang at dawn, dusk, and whenever a patient vanished. By 1902, the bell was sealed shut. Too many tolls, too many missing that were never logged. When the place closed in 1919, they left it as it stood. Records were burned. The bell, they say, rang once more, on its own. Now hikers who wander up that way, especially in October when the fog hugs the ground, claim to hear it again. Not loud, not clear. Just a low metal groan, like something ancient shifting in its sleep. One man, a college student from Roanoke, set up camp nearby in 2007. Left a note in his journal that read, "The bell rang last night. I dreamed of ash and teeth. Something watched me through the walls." He was never found. And the strangest thing, ever so often, a piece of rusted iron turns up in the creek behind the ruins, shaped like a broken tongue, worn smooth, etched with a single name that ain't on any census. Virginia's got a history, ain't all written in the books. Some of it tolls once and waits to be heard again. All right, friends, for our last story of the night, I've got one for you out near Asheville, North Carolina. Old wood, older blood, and something that don't knock before it comes calling. The hearth at Widow's Wake. There's a cabin half swallowed by rhododendron way up near Craggy Gardens. Locals call it Widow's Wake, though no one recalls whose widow or what she's waking for. Story goes, it's been there since the 1800s. Blackwood timbers, stone hearth, and a chimney that never takes smoke unless the moon is wrong. Now the tale starts with a man named Silas Boone, a stonemason who vanished up there in 1912. They say he built a cabin with his own hands and sealed it with mountain salt and Bible verses carved under every beam. Folks said he was running from something, or toward it. A hiker named Annie found the place in 1987. She'd gone off trail, following a strange smell. Campfire and violets, if you believe her. The cabin was empty, but warm. Fire crackling, tea on the table. She stayed only one night. When she came back down, she was barefoot, mumbling about a woman in gray who watched her sleep. She said her eyes looked like boiling fog. Now here's where it gets crooked. Every 10 years, give or take, someone stumbles on the place, and it's always the same. Fresh fire, warm bed, and someone humming a lullaby from the centuries past. But no one's ever stayed twice. One park ranger, name redacted in reports, claimed he saw a woman moving inside the cabin through a scope. Tall, pale, just standing by the hearth with her hands in the flames, not burning, stared straight at him through the glass. Poor fella got spooked. He don't work for the park services no more. Some say she's waiting for her husband to return. Others believe she remembers every soul that enters and dreams of lives they could have lived. But one thing's for sure, If you find that cabin and the hearth is lit, don't sit too close to the fire, because the widow don't mind company, and she doesn't like saying goodbyes. Now, North Carolina's got beauty that'll make a preacher weep, and shadows deeper than any coal seam. If you're heading into those hills, carry a compass and leave the door cracked behind you. That's the end of the road for now, friends. If the wind carries voices that ain't got mouths, and the river runs backwards just before dawn, don't ask why. Just know you've crossed over. We'll find you next time in the strange.